everything must change.
Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with New York jazz vocalist John Dokes. We caught up with him to discuss his new 2024 CD, New Day. With inspiration from his stylistic ancestors, Nat King Cole and Joe Williams, he brings new life to the deep-souled world of baritone jazz vocals. He is backed by the great New York-based George G. Swing Orchestra, where he launched his career as a vocalist. Key to this album's success is the arranging of G's musical director, trombonist, the great David Gibson. In delivering a distinctive post-pandemic outing of classic songs embodied with hopeful passion, he again puts out material that will make you move. We get into his career, his future, and so much more. Enjoy.
All right, man. Well, hey, thanks for taking a minute out. I appreciate it. And I want to begin our conversation before we get into your new material by asking, 4 years ago we were getting our head wrapped around this global pandemic, and it really sent ripples through the musician community. How did you survive that time period, and how did it kind of change the way that you approach things, and even just your perspective on this new album?
When you ask the question, how did I survive, the first thing that comes to mind is sort of like just the mental state of me and my family, and just trying to make sure that we sort of tried to create routines that kept us sane. It kept us together, got outside a little bit, and spent time outside of the confines. I was living in Manhattan at the time, and things got quite tight. And of course, musically, there weren't really many places to perform, and so a lot of times I ended up walking to Central Park, and there were some musicians, including the Jazz Park Rangers, some friends of mine, who were playing in the park, and that was really the only time I got a chance to sing is walking to the park and doing pickups with different musicians around the park. So, and that helped keep me sane as well.
So the new album, how was that influenced by living through this pandemic?
So the new album is Our Day, coming out May 10th. A lot of the songs that are on this album are songs that I had performed with George G's Swing Orchestra in the past, and with a couple of new ones. And the new ones are sort of like where I was sort of going creatively, both during that time period and also my move to Chicago. And they just happened to be two Vocalist tunes. One of them was Monin, and the other one is On the Red Clay. And it was just a chance for us to come together again. It was sort of like a reunion. During the subsequent time, I had moved to Chicago, and the band had started performing again. And so this was sort of like, when I think about the title Our Day, it's not just about the song Our Day Will Come. It's really about the band getting back together and post-pandemic trying to create a more optimistic view of what we can do musically and what we can do in life.
So what was it like to work with George G?
So George gave me my start. Like I didn't start out, singing most of my life. My father was a vocalist when I was younger. I didn't sound like him, so I didn't think anybody wanted to hear me sing. And then at one point, I used to go out and dance and swing dance and listen to George G play with his big band. And one day, my dance partner and mentor, Dawn Hampton, who was Slide Hampton's sister, she heard me singing while we were dancing, and she said I should sing with the band. And so I surprised her for her birthday and sang with George. Let me sing with him, and then it became an ongoing thing. And I started to work on my craft, and then I became a part of the band. And so it's always great to work with the band, the energy, the cats. George just has a great spirit. David Gibson, the arranger of a lot of the music that George does, and the arranger of all of my album, just finds a way to highlight and focus, the right attention on the right player at the right time. His arrangements are just built for that band.
So at the end of the day, what are you ultimately hoping the listener gets from this new album?
The fact that it's an album. So I know a lot of times we listen to, one song at a time. But when I think about this compared to my other albums, and even the first album that I did with George, I just feel like this is an album that you can listen all the way through, and it'll take you to a different place. And that's sort of what I look for when I listen to music. I just a little bit of an escape, and I'd like the listener to be willing to go on that journey, on that escape.
So take me back to the beginning. Oh no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, listen to it from the beginning to the end. You won't be disappointed.
Yeah. Absolutely. I totally agree. So let's go back to the beginning. You mentioned your father was a singer. Take me back to where you were born and raised, and how these seeds of music, and more specifically just jazz, how did that get into you?
Yes, I was born in Little Rock, but I left when I was really young, and I grew up in Oakland, California. And my father sang in a group that was sort of like the Temptations, stylistic Four Tops type of group. And so, but he also played jazz around the house. He played Nat King Cole, he played Joe Williams. And so I heard all of these different voices and different influences growing up. And I also I danced a lot growing up. And so I gravitated toward music that made me move. And when I got older, a little bit older, I danced hip hop when I was younger, and I realized that I probably didn't want to be the old guy at the club all the time, and so I switched to Lindy Hop and swing dancing, and I just loved the music that made me move in that way, and it was a different way to approach dancing and a different way to approach listening, and then eventually it became a different way to approach singing. And so the thing that I really sort of appreciate from my father is just hearing the different types of music, hearing his voice. And one of the songs that is on the album, and it was also on my last album, is Everything Must Change. It's a song that he sang a lot around the house, and it's one of my favorites, and I love what Dave did with the arrangement on that.
So other than your father, what was the first live show you saw that blew you away?
Ooh, you're really just going through all the efforts you can to possibly date me, aren't you? I think
I'm not trying to.
There were a lot of shows that blew me away. One of my favorite performers, from a performance standpoint, is Prince. I saw him perform several times. One of my favorite vocalists, from a performance standpoint, is probably Luther Vandross. And then there's also the Bobby McFerrin influence. He was just what he's able to do with his voice and how he's able to approach the music and improvise is always amazing to me. And I've spent a little bit of time with him. Just being able to learn from him is just it's been great.
So there's not a lot of baritones out there in the world of jazz. How do you feel about your role in the lexicon of singers that are out there right now? What's your perspective on that? I appreciate every singer that's out there, and every chance I get, I try to listen to both baritones and female vocalists, and I love the phrasing that comes from that era, and I love the fact that we're able to sort of like tell the story, and I think to me that's what's most important. Sometimes I appreciate the fact that I'm a baritone, and I would love to be able to hit those higher register notes, because sometimes that brings a different dynamic, and I do hit a few of them, but I don't want to hurt anybody in the audience or myself, so I try to stick with what I can do. But I just appreciate music. I appreciate singers, and of all stripes. So. Who are influences for you? Who have been some seminal jazz influences, whether they're singers or just instrumentalists? Who have really swayed the way that you approach the craft?
So I mentioned Bobby McFerrin. There's Joe Williams. There's Nat King Cole. There is Hillary Gardner, who was my duet partner for many years in the George G. Orchestra. I like some of the up and coming newer singers, Samara Joy, Tariq McDowell. There are a lot of different vocalists. From an instrumentalist standpoint, Ahmad Jamal. I wake up to Ahmad Jamal every day. Another older singer, Mark Murphy, who's one of my favorites as well. Miles Davis, Coltrane. A lot of the sort of the staples from that era.
So talk to me a little bit about what you like the best about this process of being a professional musician. I mean, there's obviously recording and, live performances and all the other aspects that go into it, but what gets you up in the morning? What motivates you?
So, I mean, I think the biggest motivator is, legacy. Like when I think about sort of how I like to live, I like to live to my potential. I like to leave a positive legacy that sort of, and create happiness. And so when I think about music and creating music, like it fulfills all of those different, areas. And the recording process is really, to me, about putting a stamp on where I am today as an artist and putting something out there that's going to sort of stand the test of time and be around for long after I'm gone. And also when I think about going in and practicing, rehearsing, and learning new songs and sitting with the band, it's really about potential. Like, how can I continue to get better? How can I continue to surround myself with amazing musicians and amazing humans who are going to push me in the right way to bring the best out of me? And in turn, how can I push them in different ways as well?
So at the end of the day, why do you love jazz?
It's cool. Jazz is cool, and that's the first thing that hits me when I think about jazz. But it just out of all the music that I listen to, and I listen to a lot of different types of music, like there's just so many different places that jazz will take you. And you never know from song to song where you're going to go.
So at the end of the day, with this album, what's the promotion looking like? Where's live shows? Where's it going? The warm months are upon us. How is all that transpiring for you? Yeah,
so I'm going to do sort of the preview of the album. It's this Sunday at Swing 46 on May 10th, the official release date. I will be at Winter's Jazz Club, and I'm bringing David Gibson, the arranger, Freddie Hendricks, Malik McLaurin from New York to join me, and cats here, Ben Patterson, Marcus Carroll, Scott Burns, a lot of greats from Chicago, Greg Autry. And then after that, I'm going to be going back to New York to do a gig at Mesro with a smaller group with Steve Anderson, Alex Claffey, and Jay Sawyer. Then I'm going to fly to Austin to do a show with Anonette and Mike Sailors. And after that, I'm going to do a show in San Francisco with Brian Fischler, and David Gibson's coming out for that one as well at Keys Jazz Bistro. And then I'm going to sort of finish the first version of the tour at Birdland with the George G. Swing Orchestra on July 7th.
So, John, at the end of the day, everyone has their perception of you, family, friends, fans, but you ultimately run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I'm still trying to figure that out. My perception of me is that I am going to wake up and do it again and try to do it better. That's sort of like how I approach the days. Make it better this time. And that's what I'm thinking about. So how can I do that? How can I put myself in the best position to do that?
Right on. John, thank you so much for opening up about the new album. And for anybody out there that wants to catch live shows, pick up a physical copy, see the release show, what's the best way to do that?
So there's my website, johndokes.com. You can find physical copies of the CD there and through Bandcamp. You can listen to it on all the streaming platforms. I also have vinyl, so don't forget to get that. And I'll see you at the show.
Wonderful. John, thank you so much for opening up about the album your life and music. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening and tuning into another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players and minds and singers in New York, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. Thanks to John for his time and cool. If you want to hear more Neon Jazz interviews, you can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to us at YouTube, and for everything Neon Jazz, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends. Hey Jazz fans, Joe Domino here, the host of the weekly Neon Jazz radio show and regular interview series being produced and distributed from Lee Summit, Missouri. We are quite excited to let you know about the first annual Lee Summit Jazz Fest taking place this summer on June 22nd, 2024 at the Bridge Space located at 210 Southwest Market Street. There will be 8 robust acts, including the Back Alley Brass Band and the great Lee Summit Jazz Orchestra. There will also be art vendors and food trucks to make this a must-attend event. All details can be found at www.bridgespace.us/jazz. We will see you there.
Neon Jazz.